In the bustling atmosphere of a crowded airport terminal, our story unfolds on what seemed like an ordinary day. The morning sun peeked through the large glass windows as passengers hurried to their gates, dragging their luggage behind them. A well-dressed man in his mid-40s stood patiently in line during the boarding process. His calm demeanor and professional appearance gave no indication of his credentials. He was both a police officer and an FBI agent, though he was traveling for personal reasons today. The boarding process was going smoothly until it wasn't. When it was his turn to board, a flight attendant suddenly stepped in his path. Her expression shifted from neutral to confrontational as she began questioning his presence on the flight. "I'm sorry, but there seems to be an issue with your boarding," she said, her tone carrying an edge that caught the attention of nearby passengers. The surrounding travelers began to whisper and stare, creating an uncomfortable atmosphere in the narrow jet bridge. The agent remained composed, speaking in measured tones as he attempted to understand the problem. He had his ticket, his documentation was in order, and there was no legitimate reason for this sudden scrutiny. Yet the flight attendant persisted, making what appeared to be arbitrary objections to his presence. What the flight attendant didn't realize was that this passenger wasn't just any law enforcement officer. His FBI credentials meant he had undergone extensive background checks and training. He was actually more qualified to be on that flight than most passengers. The situation continued to escalate as the flight attendant insisted he leave the jet bridge. Other passengers watched uncomfortably as this scene unfolded, some recording with their phones, others looking away in embarrassment at the obvious unfair treatment they were witnessing. Throughout the confrontation, the agent maintained his professionalism. He calmly explained his right to be on the flight, showed his credentials, and requested to speak with a supervisor. His training in handling high-pressure situations was evident in his composed responses. The turning point came when the supervisor arrived. Unlike the flight attendant, the supervisor immediately recognized the severity of the situation. The moment the FBI credentials were presented, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The supervisor's face paled as she realized the implications of what had just transpired. Not only had they delayed a law enforcement officer, but their actions could be interpreted as discriminatory. The potential consequences for the airline began to dawn on everyone involved. What happened next showed the true character of the FBI agent. Rather than escalating the situation or demanding immediate retribution, he used this as a teaching moment. He explained calmly to the flight attendant why her actions were problematic and how they could have handled the situation better. The other passengers, who had been silent witnesses to this entire scene, watched as this man turned what could have been an ugly confrontation into a lesson in professionalism and dignity. His response earned him quiet nods of respect from those around him. The airline staff scrambled to make things right. The supervisor offered profuse apologies, upgraded seating, and assurances that this incident would be thoroughly addressed through proper channels. The flight attendant, now understanding the gravity of her actions, stepped aside, her earlier confidence replaced with visible regret. As the situation resolved itself, other passengers began boarding again, but the atmosphere had changed. There were quiet conversations about prejudice, about jumping to conclusions, and about the importance of treating everyone with respect, regardless of their appearance. This incident, though unfortunate, served as a powerful reminder of several important lessons. It showed how quickly assumptions can lead to inappropriate actions and how maintaining professionalism in the face of unfair treatment can be more powerful than responding with anger. For the airline staff, it was a harsh reminder that their actions have consequences. The flight attendant's quick judgment could have resulted in serious repercussions for both herself and the airline. It highlighted the importance of following proper procedures and treating all passengers with equal respect. The aftermath of the incident spread through the airline industry like wildfire. Within hours, videos taken by other passengers had started circulating on social media. The clips showed the FBI agent's remarkable composure in the face of unfair treatment, making him an unexpected internet hero. Back in the plane, the atmosphere remained tense as other passengers settled into their seats. Many offered supportive smiles and words of encouragement to the agent. A young boy, watching everything with wide eyes, turned to his mother and whispered, "Mom, that's how you handle bullies, with kindness." The flight attendant who had caused the scene was replaced for that flight. As she walked off the plane, You could see the weight of her actions in her slumped shoulders. Sometimes the hardest lessons come from our biggest mistakes. The replacement flight attendant went out of her way to ensure every passenger felt welcomed and respected. During the flight, several passengers approached the agent to share their own experiences with prejudice. One elderly gentleman shared how he'd faced similar treatment at security checkpoints. A young professional talked about dealing with assumptions in her workplace. The agent listened to each story with genuine interest, turning his personal ordeal into a moment of connection. The airline's corporate office was quick to respond. Within days, they announced mandatory sensitivity training for all staff members. They used this incident, without naming names, as a case study in how unconscious bias can affect decision-making and customer service. What made this story particularly powerful was how it challenged people's expectations. He was a law enforcement officer who could have used his authority to make things difficult for everyone involved. Instead, he chose education over punishment, understanding over anger. The incident sparked important conversations in break rooms and living rooms across the country. People discussed how quick judgments can lead to embarrassing and potentially dangerous situations. It wasn't just about one flight attendant's mistake, it was about the daily choices we all make in how we treat others. A few weeks after the incident, the agent was invited to speak at the airline's training center. He shared his perspective not as an FBI agent, but as a human being who had faced unfair treatment. His message was simple: we're all capable of making mistakes, but we're also capable of learning from them. The flight attendant who had caused the incident later wrote a public apology. She admitted that her actions were influenced by unconscious biases she hadn't even realized she carried. Her honesty in acknowledging her mistakes earned her respect from many who had initially condemned her actions. Local news stations picked up the story, but not for its controversy. Instead, they focused on how one person's professional response to discrimination could create positive change. The agent's calm demeanor and teaching approach became an example of how to handle difficult situations with grace. In police academies and FBI training centers, the incident became part of the curriculum. Not because of the discrimination, but because of the agent's response. His handling of the situation demonstrated the power of staying calm and professional even in personally challenging moments. The young boy who had witnessed everything wrote a school essay about the incident. He titled it "How to Be Brave Without Being Mean." His teacher was so moved that she shared it with her colleagues, and soon the whole school was discussing the importance of standing up for yourself while remaining kind. As months passed, the incident had lasting effects on airline policy. New guidelines were implemented for questioning passenger eligibility, with an emphasis on treating everyone with equal respect and dignity. The airline industry as a whole began examining its practices more closely. The story also reached police departments across the country. Many used it as an example of how law enforcement officers can positively influence situations even when they're not on duty. It showed that the badge isn't what makes the officer, it's their character and judgment. Perhaps the most meaningful outcome was how the incident changed individual perspectives. People who watched the videos or read about the story found themselves examining their own biases and assumptions. It sparked countless dinner table conversations about judgment, respect, and the power of responding to negativity with grace. Looking back, what could have been just another viral moment of conflict became a catalyst for positive change. It showed that sometimes the most powerful response to discrimination isn't outrage or revenge, it's dignity, professionalism, and a willingness to teach others. 6 months after the incident, the story continued to create ripples of positive change. The FBI agent received hundreds of letters from people around the world. Each envelope contained stories of how his composed response had inspired others to handle difficult situations differently. One letter came from a high school teacher who had shown the video to her students. She wrote about how her class had started a dignity project where they practiced responding to unfair treatment with grace and intelligence rather than anger. The students even role-played similar situations, learning valuable lessons about conflict resolution. The airline industry saw unexpected changes too. Flight attendants began sharing their own stories of learning and growth. Many admitted they had carried unconscious biases they never recognized before. Training sessions became more interactive, with real discussions replacing routine presentations. A popular podcast invited both the agent and the flight attendant to share their perspectives. The episode became their most downloaded ever, not because of drama, but because of its honest discussion about human behavior and the possibility of positive change. Listeners were moved by how both parties spoke with honesty and humility about what they had learned. The agent's police department created a new community outreach program based on his approach. Officers would visit schools and community centers to talk about handling difficult situations professionally. They used real-life examples to show how staying calm and dignified could turn negative encounters into positive ones. A children's book author was so inspired that she wrote a story about standing up for yourself while staying kind. The book, which never mentioned race or specific professions, focused on treating others with respect even when they don't show you the same courtesy. It became popular in elementary schools across the country. The incident even influenced corporate training programs beyond the airline industry. Companies began using the story with permission to teach employees about customer service, conflict resolution, and the importance of checking their assumptions. The agent's response became a model for professional behavior under pressure. One day, while shopping at a local store, the agent overheard a mother teaching her child about handling unfair treatment. She was using his story as an example, not knowing he was standing nearby. This moment touched him deeply. His simple choice to respond with dignity had become a lesson for the next generation. The flight attendant also experienced personal growth. She began volunteering with community organizations, sharing her story as a warning about the dangers of quick judgments. Her honesty about her mistakes and commitment to learning from them earned her respect from unexpected quarters. A university sociology class did a study on how the incident affected social media behavior. They found that when the video was shared, comments focused more on learning and positive change rather than anger and blame. It became an example of how viral moments could promote understanding rather than division. Local businesses started including the story in their customer service training. They emphasized how one interaction could either escalate into a negative viral moment or become an opportunity for positive change. The agent's response became a blueprint for handling difficult customer situations. A year after the incident, the airport where it happened installed a simple but powerful art piece. It showed two hands reaching toward each other, symbolizing understanding and connection. The plaque beneath it read, "Choose dignity over drama, understanding over anger." The agent's colleagues noticed changes in how he handled difficult situations at work. His already professional demeanor had gained an extra layer of patience and understanding. When asked about it, he would say that being on the receiving end of prejudice had deepened his empathy for others. Youth leadership programs incorporated the incident into their curriculum. They used it to teach young people about personal power, how true strength often shows itself in restraint and wisdom rather than in aggressive responses to provocation. The story even reached international audiences. A Japanese business magazine wrote about it as an example of American professionalism and grace under pressure. The article sparked discussions about handling discrimination in workplaces around the world. The most lasting impact, however, was the quietest. In homes, schools, and workplaces, people began paying more attention to their own behaviors and assumptions. The incident reminded everyone that each interaction is a choice, a chance to either build walls or bridges. 2 years after the incident, the impact continued to grow in unexpected ways. The story had transformed from a viral moment into a lasting movement for positive change. Let's explore how this single interaction on an airplane kept creating ripples throughout society. A group of college students created a documentary titled "The Power of Dignity," inspired by the incident. They interviewed people from all walks of life about times they chose grace over anger. The film won several awards at student film festivals and was even screened at community centers nationwide. The airline industry underwent a complete cultural shift. Other airlines started asking their staff a simple question during training: "What would you do in this situation?" It became known as the dignity test, a way for employees to check their reactions before they acted. The FBI agent's approach influenced law enforcement training across the country. Police academies began emphasizing emotional intelligence alongside tactical training. They taught new recruits that the strongest response isn't always the loudest or most forceful one. A popular business magazine featured the story in their leadership lessons section. They broke down how the agent's response demonstrated key principles of modern leadership: staying calm under pressure, teaching rather than punishing, and turning conflicts into opportunities for growth. The flight attendant who had made the mistake went on to become an advocate for change. She traveled to different airlines, sharing her story with brutal honesty. Her message was powerful. We don't have to let our worst moments define us. They can become our best teachers. A tech company developed a virtual reality training program based on the incident. It put employees in similar situations, helping them practice responding to unfair treatment with professionalism. The program became popular in customer service training across different industries. The young boy who had witnessed the incident, now in high school, started a peer mediation program. He taught other students how to resolve conflicts using the principles he'd learned that day on the plane. The program was so successful that other schools began copying it. Religious leaders of different faiths used the story in their sermons and teachings. They focused on how one person's dignity in the face of unfair treatment could inspire others to be better. The message resonated across cultural and religious boundaries. A famous artist created a series of paintings inspired by the incident. Instead of focusing on the conflict, the artwork captured moments of human connection, the supportive looks from other passengers, the teaching moment with the flight attendant, the quiet dignity of the agent. The airport where it happened started an annual Dignity Day, where they celebrated acts of kindness and professionalism among their staff. The event included awards for employees who handled difficult situations with exceptional grace and wisdom. Mental health professionals began using the story in their practice, particularly when helping clients deal with unfair treatment. They pointed out how the agent's response protected not just his dignity, but also his peace of mind. A popular relationship counselor incorporated the incident into their workshops. They used it to show how responding to conflict with calm authority could change the dynamic of any interaction. Couples learned to handle disagreements with more grace and less drama. The story reached corporate boardrooms in an unexpected way. Companies began asking themselves how they could build cultures that encouraged dignity and professionalism, even in challenging situations. Some created awards named after the incident, recognizing employees who handled difficult situations exceptionally well. Educational researchers studied how teaching children about the incident affected their behavior. They found that students who learned about choosing dignity over drama were more likely to handle conflicts constructively and show empathy toward others. Social media platforms noticed an interesting trend. Whenever the video resurfaced, it sparked new waves of positive stories. People shared their own experiences of choosing dignity over drama, creating a ripple effect of inspiration. 3 years after the incident, the story continued to touch lives in profound and personal ways. The ripple effect had grown into a wave of positive change, reaching corners of society that no one could have predicted. A popular motivational speaker built an entire workshop around the concept of dignity under pressure. She traveled to corporations, schools, and community centers, using the incident as a central example of how one person's response to unfair treatment could transform lives. The airlines created a special training video that became mandatory viewing for all new employees. It didn't just focus on what went wrong that day, it highlighted how proper handling of difficult situations could turn potential disasters into opportunities for growth. A group of psychologists conducted a fascinating study. They looked at how people who had watched the video handled similar situations in their own lives. The results were remarkable. Those who had internalized the lesson showed significantly better conflict resolution skills. The agent's own life had changed in unexpected ways. He found himself receiving invitations to speak at graduations, where he shared his simple but powerful message. Your response to unfair treatment says more about you than the treatment itself says about others. A children's theater group created a play based on the incident. They removed any specific references to race or profession, focusing instead on the universal theme of responding to unfair treatment with dignity. The play toured elementary schools, sparking important discussions among young students. The flight attendant's journey of personal growth inspired others in customer service roles. She started a support group for service industry workers who had made similar mistakes, helping them learn and grow rather than being crushed by guilt and shame. A popular video game developer created an educational game where players faced challenging scenarios and earned points for handling them with dignity and professionalism. The game became popular in schools and corporate training programs. The incident sparked a new trend in social media. People began sharing their own dignity moments, times when they chose to respond to unfair treatment with grace and wisdom. These stories created a positive counter-narrative to the usual viral videos of conflict and confrontation. Local community centers started hosting monthly dignity dialogues, where people shared experiences and learned from each other. These meetings brought together people from all walks of life, creating understanding across social and cultural divides. A retired teacher wrote a series of lesson plans centered around the incident. The materials helped students understand complex concepts like bias, professionalism, and conflict resolution through age-appropriate activities and discussions. The story reached professional sports teams, who used it in their media training. Athletes learned that maintaining dignity under pressure wasn't just about handling tough games, it was about responding to unfair treatment in all aspects of life. An unexpected outcome was how the incident influenced wedding planners. They began using it as an example in their conflict resolution strategies, helping couples handle difficult family situations during wedding planning with grace and professionalism. Healthcare facilities incorporated the story into their patient relations training. Medical staff learned valuable lessons about maintaining professionalism even when faced with difficult or prejudiced patients. The agent's police department noticed a significant change in community relations. Their emphasis on dignity and professional responses had created a ripple effect, improving trust between officers and the communities they served. A group of artists created a traveling exhibition called Moments of Dignity. Through photographs, paintings, and installations, they captured everyday instances of people choosing grace over anger, wisdom over reaction. 4 years after the incident, the story had become a cornerstone of discussions about handling conflict and treating others with respect. Its influence had grown far beyond that single moment on an airplane. A renowned documentary filmmaker created a feature-length film exploring how one moment of dignity could change countless lives. The film followed several people who had been inspired by the incident to transform their own approaches to conflict and prejudice. In hospitals, the story found an unexpected home in patient care training. Nurses and doctors used it to teach new staff members how to maintain their professionalism even when dealing with difficult or prejudiced patients. One hospital administrator noted, "It's not just about handling conflict, it's about preserving everyone's dignity in the process." The agent's approach influenced courtroom behavior in surprising ways. Lawyers began citing the incident in training sessions about maintaining composure during heated trials. One judge commented that she'd seen a noticeable improvement in how attorneys handled confrontational situations. A group of high school students created a podcast series called Everyday Heroes. Their first episode featured interviews with people who had witnessed the original incident, exploring how it changed their perspectives on handling difficult situations in their own lives. The story became part of flight school curriculum. Future pilots and crew members studied not just the technical aspects of their jobs, but also the human element, how to handle challenging situations with grace and professionalism. Parent groups started discussing the incident in their meetings. They explored ways to teach their children about responding to unfair treatment without losing their own dignity. One parent shared, "This story gives our kids a real-world example of being strong without being aggressive." The airline industry noticed an interesting trend. Reports of confrontational incidents had decreased significantly since implementing training based on this story. Staff members were better equipped to handle difficult situations before they escalated. A tech startup developed an app inspired by the incident. The app provided daily scenarios and asked users how they would respond, teaching principles of dignity and professional behavior through interactive storytelling. The agent's calm response became a case study in business schools. Professors used it to teach future leaders about emotional intelligence and crisis management. One student remarked, "It's amazing how one person's composure can completely change the outcome of a situation." Hotels and restaurants incorporated the story into their customer service training. They found that staff who understood the principles of maintaining dignity under pressure handled difficult customers more effectively. A mindfulness teacher created a workshop series called Dignity in Action. Participants learned practical techniques for staying calm and professional in challenging situations, using the incident as a central example. The story reached international audiences in unexpected ways. A Japanese manga artist created a series about everyday heroes who handled difficult situations with grace. The FBI agent's story was featured in one of the most popular episodes. Youth sports coaches began using the incident to teach young athletes about sportsmanship. They emphasized how maintaining dignity, even when faced with unfair treatment, showed true strength of character. Libraries across the country created special displays featuring books about handling conflict with grace. The incident had sparked a renewed interest in literature about personal growth and professional behavior. Senior centers found the story particularly relevant in their community. Elderly residents shared their own experiences with discrimination and discussed how maintaining dignity had helped them throughout their lives. 5 years after the incident, its impact had evolved into something truly remarkable. What started as a tense moment on an airplane had grown into a worldwide movement about human dignity and understanding. A group of international students created a global online platform called Dignity Stories. People from different countries shared their experiences of choosing grace over conflict. The website became a source of inspiration for millions, available in multiple languages. Professional mediators began using the incident in their practice. They found that sharing this story helped conflicting parties understand the power of staying calm and professional. One mediator shared, "When people hear this story, they'd realize there's always a better way to handle disagreements." Dance companies created powerful performances inspired by the incident. Through movement and music, they portrayed the journey from conflict to understanding. Audiences were moved to tears by these wordless interpretations of choosing dignity over discord. The story reached retirement communities in a unique way. Elderly residents started wisdom circles where they shared their own experiences of maintaining dignity through decades of social change. Their stories became a bridge between generations. Summer camps incorporated the lesson into their programs. Young campers learned about handling difficult situations through role-play activities based on the incident. One camp counselor noted, "Kids naturally understand the power of choosing kindness over conflict." The incident influenced workplace design. Companies began creating reflection spaces where employees could step back from tense situations and choose their responses carefully. These spaces became symbols of the importance of thoughtful reactions. A group of chefs started a unique program in their restaurants. They trained their staff to handle difficult customers by remembering the FBI agent's composed response. They called it Cooking with Dignity, Serving Grace Under Pressure. The story found its way into marriage counseling sessions. Therapists used it to show couples how maintaining composure during disagreements could transform their relationships. One counselor shared, "It's become a powerful tool for teaching conflict resolution." Public speaking coaches incorporated the incident into their training. They taught clients how to maintain poise when faced with hostile audiences or unfair treatment. The agent's calm demeanor became a model for professional speakers. The gaming industry created a virtual reality experience based on the story. Players could experience similar situations and practice responding with dignity. The game won awards for its innovative approach to teaching social skills. Music teachers used the incident to inspire compositions. Students created pieces that expressed the journey from tension to resolution. These performances touched audiences in ways words alone couldn't. The story influenced city planning. Urban designers created public spaces that encouraged positive interactions between diverse groups of people. They called them dignity parks, places where understanding could grow. Environmental groups found inspiration in the story too. They used it to demonstrate how responding calmly to opposition could be more effective than angry confrontations. One activist noted, "Sometimes the quietest response makes the loudest statement." The incident reached professional kitchens in an unexpected way. Head chefs used it to teach their teams about handling pressure while maintaining quality and respect. They called it the Dignity Kitchen approach. Online influencers started a dignity challenge. They encouraged followers to share stories of choosing understanding over anger. The challenge went viral, creating a positive trend on social media.